Now we're going to have a look at the FM mode here. So FM synthesis allows us to modulate the frequency of one oscillator with another oscillator or maybe multiple oscillators. In this case, we have 3 oscillators that we can work with in this FM mode. Now these oscillators, when we refer to them in the terms of FM synthesis, they're known as operators, essentially. Now, the operators are organized in what, again, in FM terminology is known as an algorithm. We have 2 algorithms to choose from. So I think it's fair to say this is a very simple implementation of FM synthesis, but capable of creating some really, really kind of complex sounds. So in the first algorithm, what's happening here is the oscillator A here and oscillator B are both modulating the frequency of oscillator C. And actually, oscillator B has a feedback loop, so we can kind of feed its sound back into itself to enhance the effect. Now, the controls we have here are amount, which is the amount of FM modulation, ratio, which allows us to change the pitch of the operator, remember that means oscillator, against the note that we're playing on the keyboard, and then a fine tune, which allows us to, again, fine tune the pitch of the oscillator in sense. Now we can choose whether we want this to be tracked to the keyboard, which generally we would do for most sounds. And then we have the same controls for the second operator B, and then the same controls for operator C. And obviously that feedback dial there, which can either feed back A into itself in the case of the second algorithm, or B into itself for the first algorithm. So let's kind of check this out in action, see what we can do here. So let's turn down the FM amount for operator B, and let's just focus on operator A. In fact, let's turn that down as well. And that's what we get. So these are all sine waves. FM synthesis generally works with sine waves. Okay, so let's bring up the amount of operator A. So you can hear there's extra harmonics being added in. Now let's change the ratio dial. So you can hear that now changing the pitch of the modulation. There we go. Try fine-tuning it. Okay, now let's introduce some modulation from operator B. So you can hear that we're further modulating this. Let's change the pitch of the operator B now. And let's bring up some feedback so we're feeding B back into itself. So the more we push that, the more we're kind of introducing that very digital sounding distortion. Okay, so that's the first of our algorithms. Let's try the second one. In fact, let's just reset the patch quickly, be quicker. So let's go to the second one. So in this case, we're basically sending the output of operator A to operator B, and then we're frequency modulating operator C. And now we're feeding back the output of A back into itself using this feedback dial. So where things really come alive with FM synthesis is when we actually modulate the amount controls here. So let's go to mod matrix and let's choose oscillator 1 FM amount A, and then the same but B, oscillator 1 FM amount B. Bring up our amounts to 100 and let's choose 2 LFOs to do this. There we go. And now we can hear the LFOs changing the amount. Let's bring the amounts down. we can hear those sounds being modulated now using the LFOs, which is really cool. Now, of course, let me just reset the sound. Of course, we can use this alongside our unison settings as well. So let's make these quite spread and quite detuned. And let's bring out the ratios here. So we can use the unison settings alongside the FM synthesis to create a different style of sounds to the ones that we can create with virtual analog and wavetable synthesis. And of course, these can all be combined to create really unique patches. Okay, so that's the FM section of Dune 3 covered. So with FM synthesis, we use operators, which essentially are just the name for our oscillators, but in FM parlance. And we use algorithms, which is the way we set up these operators or oscillators. The controls we have are amount, which is the amount of FM going on. Ratio is the pitch against the key that we play in ratio, and then fine tune is a fine tuner of the pitch. Key track allows us to track the pitch to the keyboard. Feedback allows us to use one of these two feedback paths that we have visually available to us from the algorithm menu here. And remember that by modulating the amounts, we can create some really nice kind of sounds that move over time, and we can use this alongside our unison controls for some really interesting sound design options. Okay, so that is the FM section. In the next video, we're going to have a look at oscillator 3 and also the noise section. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.